Right. I want to talk about Rings of Power and what's going on here. Really, Rings of Power, the first season, if you did not like it, you're gonna continue to be disappointed in the second season. I think the trailer for Rings of Power season 2 did a good job at making people think that we're gonna get something new. In reality, the second season, in my opinion, is worse than the first season, regardless of if you liked it or not. So if you didn't like Rings of Power first season, don't go into the second one. The reason why is because apologize, I'm still recovering from COVID, guys. Is because the show focuses too much on sympathy rather than focusing on understanding the characters. So there is a huge, what does that look like and why does that matter? Sympathy, I don't know how to spell sympathy. Well, what that means is sympathy means that you know you're supposed to feel sorry for this, but you don't necessarily understand why you feel sorry for it. So they are essentially telling us how to feel. Tell how to feel. That is the biggest and broadest problem of this show. What makes it even worse for the show is the repetition with the storytelling. So the repetition goes over and over and over and over again. A lot of times we'll see characters, and the biggest and worst example of this is with Sauron and the Ringmaker, I forgot his name, Celebrimbor. So those two characters go over the same thing over and over and over again. Anytime we see them talking, it's always the same manipulation from Sauron, and it's always the same plea from Celebrimbor, and they don't stop. It's not a new scene, it's not new information, it's never progressing the plot. And at first, when I watched the first 3 episodes, I thought, oh, this show isn't so bad. Sure, they're telling me how to feel. Sure, I'm supposed to feel a way here, and they haven't earned it through their storytelling. However, everything is making sense and everything is working the way it's supposed to go. But then, because of how much repetition there is between this guy and Celebrimbor, you do not get anything new out of an episode. And it's not just with him. It does the same thing with the dwarves as well. The dwarf and his father are like, oh, I can't forgive you. I don't know if I can forgive you. And then they go and they kind of forgive each other. And the next thing you know, they're just arguing about the same things. And it has nothing to do with their characteristics or has nothing to do with propelling the plot forward. And it's the same arguments that happen over and over and over again that create this sense of like, man, did this season have to be like, the season could have been wrapped up in 5 episodes if we had just dropped these scenes that basically are saying the same thing over and over again. And with Sauron and Celebrimbor, I keep saying his name differently because I don't know how I'm supposed to say it. The biggest thing between those two is like, I don't want to do this anymore. It feels wrong. You have to do this. We have to save the world. That's it. That's all they say to each other over and over and over again. And it's nothing. He attacks on his pride, and you know, Sauron's supposed to be this great manipulator, but it never feels like he's really manipulating him. It just feels like, okay, you know, why are we still here? Why are we still having this conversation? And I feel like they also don't respect the amount of time that it takes for characters to travel between places, because the dwarves travel to the elven lands like they're neighbors, like they, you know, like it's Gotham and Metropolis from across each other from Batman v Superman. And look at this. I kid you not. Look at this conversation right here. Hold on, let me turn on the audio for you guys.
Who are you? Truly, I am the one keeping the storm at bay.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's their entire conversation the entire time. Who are you? Why are you doing this? I am the one that's gonna save the world. I said that without even watching this trailer, and it's what popped up again in the show. This show was good until it continued to bring up its own repetition, which led to nothing new in the show. And because of that, the show turns into something bad. Because there are also scenes that drag out. Like, there will be a random elf that we have never seen. We have no ties to them whatsoever, and they die. And they have like a 30-second death scene, and it's supposed to be super emotional. And another scene that happened is whenever someone loses their horse. And this isn't like in the first season where there's this horse with an attitude and they all about horse culture. And no, someone's horses die, and we're sitting there being like, oh my gosh, the horse is dead. Like, I'm supposed to feel sad because an animal died, which is sad, yes, but it doesn't deserve the screen time that they're giving it. And then whenever we do get screen time that is deserving, it feels cheap because everyone is getting it. Whenever a main character goes out in a literal blaze of glory, that is the few times where it's like, yes, this is really cool. This is what really matters. But it seems like they don't know how to capture those really great moments and understand when the audience is supposed to feel what they're supposed to feel. They just continue to tell us what to feel. Now, this trailer kind of portrays a lot of what's going on, and it doesn't really talk about the hobbits or Gandalf, the wizard. They're the journey, and they take part of it, but they might as well not be in this season because a lot of their stuff is kind of pointless as well, and false choices appear. With the false choices come the fact of like, oh, I have to make a decision. Is this the right decision? And you just don't care. You don't care because Gandalf is still struggling to capture his powers, to understand his powers, and you are like, oh no, he doesn't know how to control his powers, and now he must make a choice between his powers or his friends. And it's something so silly as like their whole anchoring of trying to keep you involved and care about this show revolves around fan service, revolves around like, remember this in the movies, remember this, remember when they talked about that, now we get to spend a whole 30 minutes just like staring at it. And that's why it hurts. That's why sympathy doesn't do good for creating a good piece of cinema and art. And like, let's see how it's doing on Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes. Right now, Metacritic, generally flavored, 7 out of 10. I think that's okay, but I think that's a generous score right there. The user score, 3.0. Again, I think it's leaning too far down the other direction. I think it should be a nice middle between those two. I do agree with the user score. From a consumer's perspective, this breaks the lore of Lord of the Rings. This doesn't really give us anything new or entertaining to watch from the first season, and it's all just a spectacle that has no weight behind any of it. So it's understandable for the user score to be so low. I do not understand how someone can just be like, yeah, this show is good, and also be like a critic. When we go to Rotten Tomatoes, same thing. This is not an 8. This is not an 83%. 49%, I do agree with this. Almost spot on. The show is not good. It's not above average when you look at it. It doesn't offer anything that is exciting or new for the audience or for fans of Lord of the Rings. It just tries to get you to like it because it's got a high production value and because it says, look at the things that we've done. It tells you how to feel. You should not be told how to feel. If you're being told how to feel, then they are not telling you a story. Now, because of this, that is why I would have to give Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, a 5 out of 10. Until next time, guys, play nice.